So here's something that drives me crazy. I see small business owners invest thousands in their websites only to create digital obstacle courses that customers have to struggle through. And most people won't even bother. They're just going to leave. Just think about it. When you visit a website, are you there to admire all the fancy animations and scroll through the endless options? Or do you quickly find what you need and move on with your day? The problem isn't that your website looks bad. The problem is that you're making your visitors work too hard. You have to realize that every single element on your page, every button, every image, every animation, and menu item is asking for mental energy from your visitor. If we haven't met before, I'm Brandon Hurst, and I set up online systems that help businesses get more customers and increase their profits. And when your website visitors feel overwhelmed by choices or can't immediately understand where to go next, they experience cognitive overload. This mental exhaustion causes them to bounce off your site at alarming rates. But this doesn't just hurt your traffic numbers, it directly impacts your bottom line. For every second your website visitor spends confused, you're losing money. Let's talk about what happens. A potential customer lands on your homepage, eager to solve their problem with your service. But instead of a clear path forward, they're met with animated banners, pop-ups, a sidebar full of options, social media feeds, and a navigation menu with 15 different choices. And what happens? They get overwhelmed, click the back button, and you just lost a potential sale. Not because they didn't need your service, but because your website made it too difficult to find it. The good news is that it's completely fixable, and I'm going to show you exactly how to transform your website from an obstacle course into a clear pathway to sales. Have you ever noticed how luxury brands use a ton of empty space on their websites? There's a reason for that. The first major issue with most small business websites is there's not enough empty space, or what designers would call white space. This might sound counterintuitive because you're paying for every pixel on that screen, so shouldn't you fill it with as much information as possible? And absolutely not, and here's why. Think of white space like an open field with a brightly colored tent in the center. To get to that tent, you know exactly where to go. Now imagine that field full of trees, ponds, and ditches. You can barely see the tent, and all your attention is focused on jumping on ditches, dodging branches, and trying not to get wet. And that's exactly what happens on a cluttered website. Your call to action button, the thing you want people to click, gets lost in the noise. The problem is that most small business owners are afraid of wasting space. They worry that if they don't fill every corner with information, customers will miss out on something important. But you need to realize white space isn't just empty space. It's breathing room for your content. It's strategic space that guides your visitors' eyes exactly where you want them to go. And here's what happens when you add more white space. Your content becomes easier to scan. Your important elements stand out. And most importantly, your conversion rates go up because people can actually find and focus on your call to action. So don't be afraid to cut content that's not serving a specific purpose. Every element on your website should be earning its place and directly be contributing to your visitors' journey toward becoming a customer. The second obstacle in the way of your website's visitors is an overloaded navigation menu. I'm sure you run into this. Those restaurants with insanely huge menus where they seem to offer any food combination your heart desires. The problem is they make it incredibly hard to decide what you want. You went in for a burger, ended up getting a pizza. While the pizza is great, it wasn't what you came looking for. The same applies to your website navigation. When you overload visitors with too many options, they get overwhelmed and often make no choice at all, which means they leave. The problem stems from good intention though. You want to make sure every visitor can find everything you offer, but in trying to be helpful, you're actually creating confusion. The lesson is clear here. Limit your main navigation to 5 to 7 items max. Focus on what your visitors are actually looking for and not just showcasing everything you do. Make the path forward obvious and irresistible. The third major obstacle in small business websites is too many visual distractions competing for attention. When everything on the page is screaming for attention, nothing gets it. Your website visitors have limited mental energy, and every animation, pop-up, and moving element is draining that energy faster than you can imagine. And your visitors can feel visually assaulted, which makes it so they can't figure out what they're supposed to do first. And that's the fundamental problem. When you don't provide a clear visual hierarchy, you're asking your visitor to do the work of figuring out what's important. Most business owners add these elements one at a time without realizing how they work together or against each other. Each individual element might seem helpful, but combined, they're creating an overwhelming experience. The turning point comes when you start thinking about your website as a guided journey rather than a showcase of features. And here's what happens when you reduce visual competition. Your visitors stay longer. They engage more deeply with your content. And most importantly, they're more likely to take the action that you want them to take. You need to be ruthless about eliminating visual distractions that don't directly contribute to your conversion goals. For every element you think about adding, you need to ask yourself this. Does this help my visitors take the next step, or does it distract them? Now I want you to take a hard look at your own website. Is it a clear path or an obstacle course? Let's create a simple 3-step action plan to declutter your website and start converting more visitors into customers. Step 1 is to conduct a whitespace audit. Look at your homepage and ask, can the important elements breathe? Try increasing the padding around your key content and call to actions by at least 50%. This simple change can dramatically increase the click-through rates. Step 2, simplify your navigation menu. Limit your main navigation to 5 to 7 items max. If you have more service or products that just use dropdowns or create logical category pages. Remember, the goal is to make decisions easier for your visitors, not showcase everything you do. Step 3, establish a clear visual hierarchy. Look at your page and ask, is it immediately obvious on what the most important element is? Your visitors should know exactly where to focus first, second, and third. Use size, color, and position to guide their attention. And this isn't just about the aesthetics, this is about the dollars and cents. When visitors can easily navigate your site and find exactly what they're looking for, they're significantly more likely to become customers. Your website shouldn't be an obstacle course. It should be a clear, open field with a brightly colored tint in the center. When you remove the obstacles, you make it easier for your visitors to become customers. If you found this helpful, hit like and subscribe because I'll be sharing more practical tips like this to help you get more customers and increase your profits. Comment below with your biggest website challenge. I want to know if it's white space, navigation, or visual distractions. And if you're ready to transform your website from an obstacle course into a sales machine, check out the link below in the description. Remember, your website only has one job. That's to convert more visitors into customers. Don't make them jump through hoops just to give you their business.